What's up, and welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Ronan Gaine, riding solo today on the pod. A lot to discuss, a lot to get into, but before we get into it all, just want to say thank you all so much for making this your first podcast for NBA coverage. Remember, you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. You're on Apple Podcasts, you're on Spotify, make sure you leave that 5-star review. You do that, we'll keep producing that content. We have to get into the Houston Rockets. They're the big story of the day. They've won 9 straight games, but are they ready for a playoff run? But we're going to start in the fast break. And we're going to start with my New York Knicks. Jalen Brunson has now missed 7 games. And I guess it hasn't been as bad as I and other New York fans were fearing, but it still hasn't been great. And I think this past week has really been an eye opener for the importance of Jalen Brunson, what he means to this team, what he brings to this team on a nightly basis. We've lost 2 games in a row, and we've lost to the San Antonio Spurs, who are completely depleted, and we've lost to the Charlotte Hornets, who, yeah, maybe they're at full strength, but it's still the Charlotte Hornets. And they're just the kind of games that Jalen Brunson does not let the Knicks lose. We don't lose to bad teams when Jalen Brunson's playing. That's just he's just that good. He has that aura. He has that tenacity and that ability to just make those teams bend to his will and make those around him play up. And we're missing that right now. They're 3-4 without him. I mean, lost to the Clippers, who were in good form. The second out of the back to back right after we lost JB. Fair enough. Okay, we got that great win against the Blazers with Mikal Bridges hitting that OT game winner. We were comfortable against the Kings, but lost to the Warriors, which in what felt like a very winnable game for us. And then like those just last 2 games, we got the Wizards up next. And I mean, my God, if we lose to the Wizards after losing to the Spurs and the Hornets, if that's a 3-game streak we're on, I mean, if that doesn't tell you how incredibly crucial and vital Jalen Brunson is to the New York Knicks, I don't know what will. Like he is one of the most valuable players in the NBA in terms of just that one star. Like he is right up there when we're talking one stars. Jalen Brunson is right up there and what he brings to these New York Knicks. I don't want to get too I don't want to get too bogged down and worried and panicky. I mean, I'm still going to panic more about the fact that we haven't beaten any of the top teams this year and the fact that we've gotten blown out in pretty much every game rather than like the fact that we're in this bit of a slump without JB. But I think it just makes us realize and be so grateful for having Jalen Brunson on the New York Knicks because without him, this team really ain't much, and it just shows that he's the kind of guy that I'm not saying he's the best player in basketball, but what I am saying is I wouldn't trade him for anyone else. Like I believe in Jalen Brunson. I love Jalen Brunson, and I want the Knicks to just ride or die with Jalen Brunson. I don't want anyone else. That's not me saying Jalen Brunson is the be all and end all greatest player in the world. That's just me saying that Jalen Brunson is the definition of a player that you want to believe in, you want to get behind, and he is the New York Knicks guy. And hopefully, we can't wait to get him back. It went from 2 weeks. It went from 2 weeks to now. Hopefully, he'll be back before the end of the season. There was nothing really in between. The first update was likely 2 weeks, and then during this past week, it came out that he's out of a walking boot, and the Knicks are hopeful that he'll come back before the end of the season, which just seems crazy to me. And like honestly, we're 3 games ahead of the Pacers right now in the standings. If JB doesn't come back, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that the Knicks fall out of the 3 seed and end up in the 4 or possibly even the 5 seed. I hope that won't happen. I don't think that'll happen. I think the Knicks will get back to winning ways tonight against the Washington Wizards, but we can't rule out that possibility. So I mean, it's going to be tough. Obviously, the most important thing is JB coming back and being fully healthy, but it would also be nice for him to get a little bit of run before going into a playoff series. We know what Jalen Brunson could do in the playoffs, but he's going to need a bit of time to ramp up and a time to get everything going again before the playoffs, and hopefully we'll be able to pull that off. Because if not, then you start to be concerned about the Knicks going into playoff series against anyone. Moving on from that, let's talk about the Cavaliers. Whew, they're on their worst run of the season. They've lost 4 straight games, and they've been bad losses too. They lost to the Sacramento Kings without Zach LaVine or Domantas Sabonis. They lost last night to the struggling Phoenix Suns. They've lost to the struggling Magic. I mean, they got beaten by the Clippers, but the Clippers are red hot right now, and I think we can get we can allow for that one. But I mean, we saw Mobley kind of get beaten down by Zubac. We saw Kawhi look back to his best. We saw KD last night go off, and that's just what KD's able to do. So I'm not going to get too bogged down. There's like KD dropped 42 on the Cavs last night. The Suns, as bad as they are, like in a one-off game, you could still be fearful of them. You can still be fearful of Kevin Durant absolutely destroying your team. He is still one of the most unguardable scorers in the entire NBA. Joins LeBron James as only the second player to drop 40 against every single NBA team. Incredible, just another feather in his cap. But that's the way I'm not getting too worried about Cavs form right now. I think you make the argument this is a good time. This is a good time for them to hit their lull. And more importantly, let's not forget these four straight losses coming off the back of a 15 game win streak. So let's like put it into context. Let's relax a little bit. There's no need to panic here. People are all ready to like start comparing these Cavs to the Atlanta Hawks under Budenholzer and little things like that. I think it's too early for that. Don't get me wrong. I still believe that the Cavaliers will become just the third team in NBA history to win at least 60 games and not reach the conference at least reach the conference finals. I think that is a very plausible outcome. Maybe I'm not ready to say that the Knicks can take down the Cleveland Cavaliers in the second round, but the Pacers are a similar team to what they were last year. They've started to get better again. Siakam and Halliburton, I think I've got things going. Like we saw like Obi Toppin's game the other night, dropping 34 and hitting all those threes. Like the Pacers still feel like that bogey team that, yeah, I still don't believe they're good enough to take down the Celtics. But if they meet the Cavaliers in the second round, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if they were able to take down these Cavaliers. Maybe I'm being too judgmental. I think the Cavs are having a great regular season. They're in a great mold. I think they're going to bounce back off this little lull. And don't get me wrong, would I be surprised if the Cavaliers reached conference finals? Absolutely not, because they have been so efficient and so great offensively, and are still capable of being one of the best defensive teams on any given night, even without the Garland or Mitchell being great and not really having that standout perimeter defender. I still think their defense as a whole, the scheme that they play, I think they're capable of being a great defensive team. But they still haven't proven it to us in the playoffs. That's why criticism is fair. This is a similar sort of criticism that we didn't label against the Celtics last year because they had proven track record in the playoffs of being just there, just almost good enough. They were right there. We've seen them consistently go to the conference finals, been to the NBA finals going into last year. So that's why we didn't really have any of these doubts. And I think that's why it's fair to have these doubts about Cleveland. But in terms of this little run that they're currently on, I don't think you can say that they're done, they're finished. I think they're down and out. To just judge them off this run, I think would be crazy and premature. To judge them off the fact that we never really see them do it in the playoffs, the fact that we know the likes of a Jared Allen has sometimes waned when we get to the playoffs, the fact that we don't know the full force of Evan Mobley as a two-way threat. We kind of only saw it in that last game against the Celtics in the playoffs last year. It is tough, but there's a lot of talent in this team. I still believe in them as a threat. I still think the most likely outcome in the Eastern Conference Finals is the Cavs and the Celtics. But we still have to have that little element of doubt because a team like the Pacers can upset, I'm going to say, anyone in the NBA outside of probably the Thunder and the Celtics. Outside of that, I think you could be have confidence in the Pacers being able to get the job done in the 7 game series because of just the hectic and just crazy way that they play. I don't like. I'm not going to say it. I don't even think they're one of the best teams, but it's just their style of play and what they can produce game in and game out, and they can just wear you down, and that is something that works well in a playoff setting like we saw last year. But Cavs will bounce back from this. They will still win 60 games this year. They will still be the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. So let's just chill. Let's not get too freaked out. Let's not get too worried about what they're doing right now. They've hit a little lull. They're going to be back winning games going into the postseason. Good time for them, in my opinion. This is as good a time as any to hit their lull for the season. If this is going to be their low point, that means they're ready to bounce back and going towards playoff time, and that's the most important thing in basketball, to be in form when you're heading into the playoffs. And I think the Cavs are going to be right in that mold for sure. Final fast break point. The Los Angeles Clippers. We thought they were done. They had been in and around that 5, 6 seed all season in the West. They hit a little snag, looked like they were finished, but now they've bounced back. They are on an 8-2 run. They are one game back of the Warriors for the sixth seed. Kawhi Leonard looks like he's back. James Harden is playing some of his best basketball in the last 2, 3 years. Zubac has been amazing. Their defense is still elite. They just got Norman Powell back, struggling a little bit, admittedly, to get back into the flow of the amazing performances that he was putting up before he got hurt. But the Clippers look pretty good to be able to sustain this and to really challenge the Warriors and the Timberwolves for that sixth seed, and like maybe even the Grizzlies but they could be clawed back as well the way that they're going at the moment. It's kind of crazy that those three teams, the Timberwolves, the Warriors, and the Clippers, are all on such red hot form, but basically kind of staying around the same position even with that form. Warriors, they won 9 of their last 10. Clippers have won 8 of their last 10. Timberwolves have won 8 of their last 10, and they basically all kind of just stayed put, basically all been in still been the 6, 6, 7, 8 seed there, which is just crazy. It shows the quality in the Western Conference and shows like obviously the struggles these teams have had at certain points of the season. Why these runs aren't making the ultimate difference that you would like to believe that they would, and you would think that they would, especially when we see teams can go on little runs in the Eastern Conference and really kind of rise up the rankings, which we don't really see in the West, and that's why the West is just so entertaining. The West is so fun to watch, and you just cannot sleep on it. Like the fact that the OKC Thunder have clinched the number one seed before any other team has clinched a playoff spot. Like that is absolutely crazy. Yes, credit to the OKC Thunder for their greatness this season and how good that they have been. But to do that before any other teams even clinched a playoff spot, that just shows how competitive the Western Conference is. And we're going to see it through to the end. And I think the Clippers can do it. They've got a pretty tight rotation, but the addition of Bogdanovich, I thought that was a great move when they made it at the trade deadline, because I think he can be such a spark plug off the bench. He can be such a great scorer. He can hit shots. He can be that guy who comes in any given game. He might only play 12, 15 minutes, but he can put up 15 to 20 points. And that is such a key role for any team that are, especially like a Clippers team that are pretty much all built around defense. To have that guy being able to do that and to get that in a playoff series, that'd be huge. Most important thing of all, though, outside of Harden, who I should mention first, Harden, he's been pretty inefficient this year, but he's really thrived running the offense. He's looked in certain periods and certain stretches back to elite point guard level, elite, not quite James Harden the league because we know the standards that he set in Houston, but he really has impressed being the lead guy for this Clippers team with obviously having missed a large part of the season. And like over this recent stretch, Harden 28.4 points per game, 9.8 assists, 45% from the field, 39% from deep. Pretty good numbers. Those are pretty great numbers. In fact, if you're James Harden and if that's the way he's going to be rolling going into the playoffs, like yeah, you have faith. But like I said before, the most important thing for this Clippers team is Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi is on a nice little run, showing flashes and moments like we saw against the Cavaliers where he looks back to his best. But the thing about Kawhi Leonard is, over the last few seasons, he's always hurt when we get to the playoffs. That's what this entire season hinges on for the Clippers. Whether they are the 7 seed, the 8 seed, the 6 seed, the 5 seed, they need Kawhi Leonard to be healthy to end the season and firing when they get to the playoffs. Because Kawhi Leonard is still capable of being the best player in a playoff series, which is crazy to think of with all the injuries and how much time he's missed. But even when we see those sporadic moments where he's been in the playoffs over the last few years, he's still doing great things. Like a couple of years ago, he was putting up amazing numbers before going down and getting hurt in the playoffs against, I think it was the Phoenix Suns. Like that, he was doing incredible things that only a handful of other players in the entire NBA are capable of doing. And that's what the Skippers team is going to need because they are so good defensively, but the offense, we all know, James Harden, he tends to struggle a little bit when we get to the playoffs. That is just that's always been something that's labeled against him. If he has to be the lead guy for this team, I don't really have any faith in them making it past the the first round or even getting in to the playoffs if they have to go through the play-in tournament. I just don't see that. I just don't see that really being possible. That's just not who Harden is, unfortunately. But if Kawhi is there, if Kawhi is hitting ready to go throughout the rest of this season, I could see them finishing in the top six. And then you really have to be worried about the Clippers going into playoff series. Ty Lue is an incredible coach. I like I think he is one of the best in the entire NBA. And I truly believe that if they have Kawhi Leonard, the Kawhi Leonard, healthy in the playoffs, I could see them upsetting. I could see them winning a first round season series, maybe even a second round series, depending on who they got. That's how good Kawhi Leonard is capable of being, and that's how much faith I have in Ty Lue as a coach and this team defensively. Matchups are going to be huge for them. There's, won't get that wrong, but there's something about the Clippers that makes me wanna back them for being like the prime Cinderella team this year. Maybe we'll finally get the Lakers Clippers playoff series that we've been dreaming of for the last 5 years that we still have yet to see. Maybe this could be the year. And even if that ended up being drab, just the fact that we actually get to see it, that would be amazing. That would probably be the best outcome I think we could hope for this year. If we finally get to see that series that matchup, whether it's only in the first round, whether we manage to somehow squeeze it in the second round, that would be a great outcome for both the NBA, LA as a whole, to finally get that Battle of LA in a playoff series and just have it where LeBron is healthy. Yeah, we've lost Paul George, but we want LeBron, Luka, Kawhi, Harden. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm backing the Lakers in that series because Luka Doncic, we know he's just unconscious when he plays against the Los Angeles Clippers. So I would be taking the Lakers in that series, but damn, the Clippers, there's something about them. If we're talking Cinderella stories, I'm tempted to back the Clippers as the most likely Cinderella story in the 2025 NBA playoffs, and you can quote me on that. Moving off the fast break, let's get into the real stuff. The Houston Rockets. They've won 9 straight games. In a similar way to the Clippers, they were obviously higher up in the standings earlier this season. Then they had their little low period, and everyone was kind of like, okay, this is what we all knew. This team isn't really ready to make a playoff run. This team isn't really ready to be one of the best teams in the Western Conference. But then they went on this little run, 9 straight games, coming off of a 5-11 run that they went on to begin the year and in February. And then you look at it back again and we're thinking, oh, wow, they won 9 in a row. Where do they go from here? Are they back? Are they ready for a playoff run? And then you have to try to sit back and just take a broader view and then look at the schedule that they've just been on. The games they've won. Two against the Pelicans, two against the struggling Magic, the Suns, the Mavericks, the Bulls, the Heat. I mean, let's not get too carried away. It's always impressive when you go on a win streak like this, winning games on stacks is always hard in the NBA. But this whole season is basically like a test for the Rockets. A good team, a great defense, but do they need a star? Right now, everyone's answer is yes. They still need that star player. But let's not forget, superstars are born in the playoffs. It sounds like a cliche, but it's true. Stars are not made in the regular season. Stars are made in the playoffs. We have not seen this Rocket squad in a playoff series yet. Like look back a few years ago, we all knew Luka Doncic was a great player. He had a great rookie year, then a great sophomore year. But then it was that playoff series, that first playoff series against the Los Angeles Clippers, where everyone knew, okay, yeah, Luka Doncic is a superstar. They didn't even win that series, but we all knew that was the moment where we all knew. And then you look at this Rockets team and like, do they have it? Do they have that guy? I think it's a battle. I don't know if a battle is the right word. I don't think that I think that they'd be happy with either outcome. But you're looking at Jalen Green, you're looking at Alperen Şengün. Those are the two guys for the Houston Rockets. One of them, likely both of them, one of them really has to break out and be show that they are a superstar if this Rockets team can go on a run in the playoffs this year. I truly believe that we will have our answer after this playoff series, whether or not the Houston Rockets need to invest in a superstar or if they already have one and we just didn't know it yet. That's what the playoffs can do, and that's what I believe we're going to find out this year. They're looking very good to likely finish as the second seed. It's still pretty tight up there with the Nuggets and with the Lakers, and you have to think that they're going to have the Nuggets can bounce back whenever Jokic returns to the lineup. The Nuggets could go on another strong run. The Lakers are about to get LeBron and Rui back. They can still go on a run. So it's not exactly locked in. But you look at this Houston team and you think they're going to be so reliant because they've struggled for the most part offensively for large parts of the year. Their success has been built off defense. But then you're looking at and you're thinking they're going to have to be so reliant on the likes of Van Vliet, Brooks, and Jabari Smith to make their shots if they're going to win playoff games. Then you look at the guy like Amen Thompson. Can he impact the game in the same way without being able to hit from deep in the playoffs? That's going to be super interesting to keep an eye on. Obviously, his major impact is his athleticism, his rebounding, his defense. But can he hit shots? Can he still provide? Can he still be a quality player on offense in the playoffs? Because that's the difference between a guy being a star or not. That's the difference between a guy who can make the difference for your team or not. He shoots 28% from three. Granted, he only takes about one a game, but is that going to cut it in the playoffs? Is he going to still be as impactful as we've seen him be in the regular season? Is he going to be able to do that in the playoffs? I am not so sure. I love Eamon Thompson. I really believe in him, but I'm interested to see how big of an impact that can have on his game as a whole and what we see from this Rockets team. They thrive kind of in the chaos sometimes, especially a guy like Eamon Thompson. Will they be able to create that chaos enough in the playoffs for him to be able to have a great offensive impact? That remains to be seen. But the battle, no doubt, is between Şengün and Green. I'm ready to look forward. Yeah, we still got a few weeks left, I know, in the regular season, but it's fun to look a little bit further forward. And you're thinking about this Rockets team. They had a good year last year. Udoka really like he made his imprint on this team, and we've seen that to go to another level this year. They are looking good. I think I'd be a little bit surprised if they are not the second or third seed in the Western Conference. They will absolutely be the favorites to be upset. I think in the first round, out of any of the teams that have home court advantage in the first round, I think they'll probably be the favorites to be upset. And that's when it comes down to Şengün, Jalen Green. Can either of them prove that they are superstars? Can Jalen Green go out there and say, "Oh, you gave me this contract because it's pretty tradable, and you want to trade me and turn me into a Giannis or a Devin Booker or a Kevin Durant. Nah, you don't need that. I'm already that guy. Can he do that? We see it in flashes. We see it in flashes where you're like Jalen Green has dropped his average on 40 over a 10 game stretch. And then we see him also average like 15 and or less over 10, 15 game stretch. He's been super up and down, but like I said, superstars are born in the playoffs. Will he rise to the occasion? Can he rise to the occasion? The platform is going to be there for him. Let's see what he can do with it. And that's the exact same with Şengün. Şengün can be great, an offensive hub, the like a diet Jokic at certain points. But then he's also a big man who plays under the rim that often we see shooting 40% or less from the field, which is not going to cut it in the playoffs. When you're a big man, when you're your team's lead big man, and you're getting as much touches in and around the rim as he is, he's got to be more efficient. He's got to start dominating in there. He's got to not let any defender deter him from playing his best basketball. They're super exciting. The Rockets are so interesting. I can't wait to see what we get from them. I believe in Alperen Şengün. I've been such a fan of his. I'm tempted to believe in him emerging as this superstar for Houston over Jalen Green. But like I said, we're going to have the answer after the 2025 playoffs, whether or not the Houston Rockets need a superstar or not. Right now, I'm in the camp of they still need that superstar scorer. They still need that elite offensive player, that offensive hub to really, truly take this team to competitor status. But hey, Rockets, go out there. Prove me wrong. That's going to do it for today's episode. Short and sweet. Knicks, let's get it going. We don't have JB, but we're playing against the Wizards tonight. We got to get a win. Clippers, Warriors, Wolves. Who's going to win that battle? LeBron and Rui likely returning for the Lakers. Can the Cavs bounce back? It's all happening. We've only got a few weeks left. Only a few weeks left to go until the NBA playoffs. And we're going to have everything covered for you here on Coast to Coast. But for today, that's going to do it. Thank you all so much for sticking with me. Remember, we are everywhere on social media at Coast to Coast NBA. And most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.